This is a love letter to stunt people, who are the hardest working people in Hollywood. They really are. I always worshiped our stunt people.
Have you ever pinned her poster on your wall, whispered her name in your heart like a national crush, or found yourself mesmerized by that iconic pink bikini that became part of your childhood memories? If so, you were one of the millions who once adored Heather Thomas, the irreplaceable sex symbol of the 1980s. In The Fall Guy, she wasn't just Jodie Banks. She was a living dream on the small screen. Sunlit blonde hair, an angelic smile, and eyes that could stop an entire generation in its tracks. But the spotlight only illuminated half of her life. The other half was shrouded in shadows. Drugs, stalking nightmares, a horrifying accident, a brief marriage, and a decision to walk away from it all, right at the height of her fame. And just when the world thought Heather Thomas had vanished, she quietly resurrected herself in a way no one expected. This isn't just the story of a Hollywood beauty. It's the journey of a woman who knew when to stop. Get ready. You're about to see a completely different Heather Thomas. Raw, fierce, real. Let's hope the truth doesn't shatter your illusions. Heather Thomas was born on September 8, 1957 in Greenwich, Connecticut, into a family with a strong academic foundation. Her mother was a special education teacher, and her father was the dean of a university. Her childhood was shaped by discipline and strict academic expectations. The family relocated to California when Heather was still a child. She attended Santa Monica High School, a place where a rigorous academic environment clashed directly with the expanding cultural influence of Hollywood. At the age of 14, she was selected as a co-host of Talking with a Giant on NBC, a teen-focused talk show where she interviewed celebrities. The program aired for 2 years, giving Heather her first real exposure to professional television. Heather once shared that, although she excelled academically, she felt the need to assert herself beyond the academic expectations imposed by her family. During high school, she engaged in extracurricular activities, such as surfing and labor rights protests, revealing an early sense of independence and concern for social issues. After high school, Heather enrolled at UCLA, majoring in film and television. She joined the Chi Omega sorority and was actively involved in acting classes, script writing, and production. In 1980, she graduated, not just with a degree, but with a clear intention. She wanted to control her own story, not only in front of the camera, but behind it as well. These formative experiences, from a strict family background and early contact with professional TV to formal artistic training, helped shape her independent, proactive personality and her desire to break free from traditional roles. These very elements would later profoundly influence how Heather confronted fame, addiction, and her decision to walk away from the spotlight when necessary. Graduating from UCLA with a solid skill set, Heather Thomas entered the entertainment industry with a clear sense of agency. She didn't wait for opportunities, she created them. One of her first roles came in 1978 with the sitcom Co-Ed Fever, a college dorm comedy designed to cash in on the success of the film Animal House. However, the show quickly stirred controversy for being too suggestive and deemed inappropriate for its time slot. After just one episode aired, backlash from parents and conservative groups led CBS to pull the entire series, after only 3 commercial breaks. For Heather, it was an early lesson. In Hollywood, success doesn't just depend on talent. Sometimes it hinges entirely on luck. And hers wasn't lucky the first time. Still, she didn't let that early failure discourage her. Heather pivoted to commercials, taking on any job she could land, from milk and medicine to dietary supplements. She often stretched the truth to get the gig, once claiming she could ice skate, only to fall repeatedly in front of the camera. But she didn't quit. Wherever she fell, she got back up. In parallel, she continued writing scripts, joining small production groups, and learning the ropes behind the camera. Having hosted a television show at age 14, she already understood how cameras worked. More importantly, She understood how to tell a story that engaged viewers. The skills she had gained at UCLA were now being tested in the real world, often brutally. During this period, Heather had yet to land a breakout role, but she was quietly laying the groundwork. With flexibility, resilience, and a willingness to start from scratch, she was doing what many young actors lacked the endurance to even attempt. Heather Thomas became a household name across America in 1981 when she was cast as Jody Banks in the action television series The Fall Guy, alongside veteran actor Lee Majors. The show followed a stuntman who moonlighted as a bounty hunter, with Jody as his beautiful, fearless partner, unafraid to dive into dangerous action scenes. From the very first season, Heather drew attention with her striking looks and high-energy screen presence. She wasn't just another female figure in a testosterone-driven world. She was the reason audiences kept tuning in. The Fall Guy ran for 5 seasons, with over 100 episodes aired in primetime on ABC, becoming one of the most successful series of the early 1980s. With her signature blonde hair, athletic figure, and radiant smile, Heather quickly became a national beauty icon. A promotional poster featuring her in a pink bikini, originally intended as simple marketing, unexpectedly became a cultural phenomenon, plastered in millions of teenage bedrooms across America. She became a vital part of 1980s pop culture, sexy, strong, and unmistakably mainstream. But it wasn't just her looks that won audiences over. Heather also impressed with her ability to perform many of her own stunts, her professionalism, and her natural acting style, elevating Jody Banks beyond the pretty face stereotype. For male viewers, she was the ultimate dream girl. For female viewers, she embodied a generation of women unafraid to fight for a voice in a man's world. The success of The Fall Guy didn't just define Heather Thomas as a staple of the 80s. It also forced her to face a tough decision: remain boxed into this glamorous mold forever, or risk breaking free to find a space that truly belonged to her, even if it was less dazzling. Following her breakout success, Heather further proved her acting chops with the role of Evangeline Coate in the 1987 television film Ford, the Man and the Machine. The film received critical acclaim, winning 3 Gemini Awards and earning 3 additional nominations, including 1 for Best Supporting Actress for Heather Thomas. It was proof of her efforts to move beyond the sex symbol label and pursue deeper, more meaningful roles. However, Hollywood wasn't ready to see her differently. The scripts that came her way remained centered around shallow, seductive characters. Heather shared that she was constantly offered roles as the sexy blonde, leaving her feeling typecast and unrecognized for her actual talent. In response, she began rejecting these formulaic parts and returned to her passion for writing. She focused on screenwriting and fiction, determined to control her own narrative and explore more profound artistic territory. This marked a turning point, a shift from the spotlight to behind the scenes, where her creativity could flourish without limitations. After stepping away from the screen, Heather found notable success in writing. In 1997, she sold her debut screenplay School to Touchstone Pictures for a 6-figure deal, a remarkable feat for a first-time screenwriter. Though the project was never produced and she eventually reclaimed the rights, the deal established her as a rising voice in Hollywood's creative circles. In 2008, she published the novel Trophies with William Morrow. The book explored the inner lives and covert rivalries of trophy wives in American high society, offering a blunt and unflinching perspective. It was praised for its sharp insight and fearless examination of fame's dark underbelly. No longer reliant on her image as a sex symbol, Heather Thomas was carving out a new identity as a grounded, experienced, and compelling storyteller in the entertainment world. Though most of the public remembers Heather for The Fall Guy, her cultural impact stretches far beyond that role. Her pink bikini posters became iconic teen bedroom staples of the 1980s, placing her alongside fellow poster girls like Farrah Fawcett and Heather Locklear. Yet that fame came with a cost. Her image was often overexploited by the media, frequently without her control, and her actual acting contributions were sidelined. While many of her peers chose to maintain their careers by clinging to their sex symbol personas, Heather took a different path, one of self-definition. This was evident in her lesser-known but notable performances post-Fall Guy, including Ford, The Man and the Machine, a German miniseries filmed in Sri Lanka, and projects alongside Cliff Robertson, Martin Landau, and Christopher Plummer. These efforts revealed that Heather Thomas wasn't just a popular face on television. She was an artist with a strong sense of self, determined to influence how she was perceived, even if that meant walking away from fame. Do you think Heather Thomas might have had a more dazzling career if she had accepted more of those shallow, seductive roles? Or was it her decision to walk away at the right moment that made her unforgettable in a completely different way? At the height of her fame, with her name dominating television screens and her pink bikini image pinned on the bedroom walls of millions, Heather Thomas was quietly entering into a battle behind the scenes, one with herself, a battle against the grip of addiction. Cocaine had entered her life back in her UCLA days, initially as an ally to help her stay up late for shoots, acting classes, and screenwriting. But by the time The Fall Guy took off, that ally had become a destroyer. "I had money. I could stay up all night and still show up on camera the next morning," she admitted in a later interview. But it wasn't just drugs that were destroying her. In her effort to maintain the figure that came with being a national sex symbol, she began abusing the diuretic Lasix, a medication that rapidly dehydrates the body, giving the illusion of instant thinness. The result was severe physical collapse, chronic fatigue, electrolyte imbalances, and life-threatening conditions. Her family had to intervene. In 1985, right after wrapping the final episode of The Fall Guy, Heather was told her father was gravely ill in Santa Monica. But when she landed at the airport, she wasn't taken to the hospital. She was taken straight to a rehab facility. It had all been orchestrated. It was a painful but necessary intervention. During her 3-week treatment, Heather suffered pneumonia, kidney, and lung damage, and had to receive daily potassium infusions just to stay alive. Yet the most unexpected twist came from a man named Alan Rosenthal, a therapist at the facility and co-founder of Cocaine Anonymous. They fell in love during treatment. In August 1985, Heather married Alan, a union that seemed like a fresh start. But within a year, she filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The whirlwind romance ended quietly, but marked a turning point, one that helped rescue a soul on the edge of destruction. "Maybe that's what kept me alive," she said, softly but hauntingly. There's no denying that her genuine love for Alan was a kind of miracle that pulled her back from the brink. Though they only walked a short path together, it meant everything. By the late 1990s, Heather found herself in a new kind of hell, this time born from her own fame. Her bikini image had once covered magazines and teen bedrooms, turning her into a symbol of desire, but it also made her a target. "I had a lot of stalkers," she revealed on the podcast Still Here Hollywood. "At one point, I was dealing with 2 a week." In 1993, things escalated when a delusional man showed up at her home, trying to hand her a script. Heather filed for a restraining order and referred to him as a harasser. After facing numerous obsessive fans, she eventually filed 45 restraining orders, all while roles became scarcer. She received threatening letters by mail, an anonymous box of bullets, even a funeral wreath stolen from a graveyard. One man climbed her gate wielding a massive hunting knife. Another cut through her bedroom screen late at night and broke in, and she had to fire a weapon. "I packed rock salt into the gun and shot him," she recalled. No one knows if the intruder went to jail, but for Heather, The psychological scars were real. I always had to have a bodyguard in the house. I didn't want to come home to a dark place not knowing who might be waiting in the shadows. She admitted that she once kept this story private for fear of being labeled as that stalked woman. On the podcast, Heather also spoke openly for the first time about being sexualized in Hollywood. She likened the entertainment industry to a store where women's bodies were tools for sales. "I was like a swimsuit salesgirl," she said bluntly. "That's how I got sold." Amid this chaos, a surprising connection opened a new chapter in her life. At a political fundraiser in Los Angeles, Heather met Skip Brittenham, a veteran entertainment lawyer who had represented some of Hollywood's biggest names. It wasn't a film set or red carpet that drew them together. It was clarity and shared life values. In 1992, they married in a private ceremony. Heather stepped into the role of stepmother to Skip's two daughters, Christina and Shauna, with care and thoughtfulness. In 2000, she gave birth to her only biological child, India Rose. At 43, when most women had long settled into motherhood, Heather was experiencing it for the first time. India Rose was born in quietness, mindfulness, and deep gratitude. After years of struggling with addiction, trauma, and constant threats, Heather didn't see motherhood as just another milestone, but as a second chance to remake herself, this time for a life completely dependent on her love. "I used to fight to live for myself, but once I had a child, I began living for her," she said in a rare interview. Yet the threats of the past never fully disappeared. Heather understood that every decision she made now directly affected her family's safety and emotional well-being. And so, she made the biggest decision of her life, to walk away from Hollywood in order to protect the ones she loved. When asked about it later, she simply said, "I chose life, mine, and the lives of those I love." After stepping away from the spotlight, Heather Thomas didn't vanish from public life. She reinvented herself as a prominent figure in political activism. Since 2003, her private home in Santa Monica has become a well-known gathering spot for policy advocates, informally dubbed the LA Cafe. There, she has hosted meetups and fundraisers for Democratic candidates and social organizations, championing causes from women's rights and voting access to environmental issues and public health. Her guest lists have included names like Gloria Steinem, Elizabeth Warren, Maria Teresa Kumar, and numerous other state and federal politicians. As she bluntly put it, "I got sick of eating lobster while nothing was getting done." As of mid-2024, Thomas has contributed over $400,000 to election campaigns and nonprofit organizations. Major donations include $45,033 to Fair Fight, the voting rights group founded by Stacey Abrams, $33,240 to Really American PAC, an anti-Republican organization, and tens of thousands more to Democratic Senators John Fetterman and Mark Kelly. But Thomas hasn't limited herself to writing checks. She co-founded Don't Get Purged, a platform raising awareness about voter registration laws, especially within minority communities, and has actively advised organizations like the Rape Foundation and the Amazon Conservation Team. Thomas often emphasizes, "If you don't act, you're just as guilty as anyone else," a statement that reflects her uncompromising stance. In 2023, she and her husband, entertainment lawyer Skip Brittenham, hosted a major fundraiser for Vice President Kamala Harris's re-election campaign, drawing nearly $500,000 in donations from Hollywood's elite. In June 2024, Thomas attended a gala that raised over $30 million for President Joe Biden, alongside George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and other prominent figures. "I've liked Kamala for a long time," Thomas told the Los Angeles Times, also expressing concern over the rise of Christian nationalism and Donald Trump's extreme policies. "People in entertainment don't want their creative freedom threatened. If you give power to Bible thumpers, they'll destroy us," she added. "I'd look terrible in a Duggar dress." From a 1980s sex symbol, Heather Thomas has redefined her place in society, becoming a sharp, sober, and influential voice in national conversations on democracy, the environment, and justice. She no longer needs to be seen, as she once said, "I can be the napkin girl. I don't need attention, I just need what I do to matter." Heather Thomas didn't leave a legacy through the number of roles she played or box office hits she starred in, but through the way she stepped out of the sexy TV persona to shape a completely different image. A woman who took control of her own destiny and used her voice and influence to fight much bigger battles. From being America's beloved pin-up icon of the 1980s, Heather quietly evolved into a significant figure in post-Hollywood politics. She didn't choose to keep acting to maintain her fame. She chose to walk away at the right moment when she realized that fame was no longer safe for her family. And from someone once obsessed with her appearance, she transformed into a writer, a political activist, and a strategic fundraiser for progressive causes. The flat lawn at her Santa Monica home, as Heather metaphorically calls it, is not just a gathering space, but a meeting ground for ideas in direct opposition to extremism. Politicians like Barbara Boxer, Elizabeth Warren, and Adrian Fontes have all passed through it. But their presence hasn't left a deeper mark than the quiet, consistent influence of the woman who hosted them. Someone once said, "Heather doesn't need to be in front of the camera to shine. She knows how to shine a light on what truly needs to be seen." That's the essence of her legacy. Not flashy, but real. She didn't need medals to matter, but still carved a lasting imprint on America's cultural and political history. As of 2025, Heather Thomas lives a quiet but fulfilling life away from the spotlight. Although she no longer acts regularly, she still holds a deep place in the public's memory and occasionally makes surprise returns. In April 2024, Heather reappeared on the red carpet at the Los Angeles premiere of The Fall Guy, glowing beside her former co-star Lee Majors in a post-credits cameo. It was a nostalgic moment, but also a reminder that the once reigning sex symbol hadn't completely faded into the past. Financially, Heather Thomas has an estimated net worth of around $5 million, accumulated through her acting career, writing endeavors, and real estate investments with her husband, veteran entertainment lawyer Harry "Skip" Brittenham. The couple owns a mansion in Santa Monica, purchased in 1987 for $2.9 million. Today, the property is valued between $10 and $15 million. Additionally, in July 2000, they invested in a 20-acre estate in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, for $4.5 million. There, they built a 7,000-square-foot residence completed in 2008. The property was once listed for $27 million in 2018, the highest asking price in Wyoming at the time, but ultimately wasn't sold. It remains their primary vacation retreat. Family is the cornerstone of Heather's current life. She and Skip have one biological daughter, India Rose, born in 2000. While India has stayed away from the spotlight and keeps her personal life private, she's known to share her mother's artistic sensibilities and independent spirit. Heather also maintains a close relationship with Skip's two daughters from his previous marriage, Christina and Shauna. In terms of health, Heather leads a consistently healthy lifestyle. She occasionally shares glimpses of her everyday life on social media, reflecting a cheerful, optimistic spirit and a remarkably youthful appearance and mental clarity well into her 60s. Her husband, Skip, remains active in the legal field and continues to be her long-term partner in both social and family endeavors. Though she hasn't announced any new creative projects, Heather still devotes time to writing and participating in behind-the-scenes work. For her, this phase of life is a balance of peace, creativity, and freedom. A chapter she continues to write, entirely on her own terms. She was once the dream pinned on bedroom walls, with that sunlit smile and the legendary pink bikini. But Heather Thomas never let youth and fame define her entire life. She chose to quietly step back, to protect her daughter, protect herself, and live a life that didn't need a spotlight to shine. Today, as the twilight stretches across Jackson Hole and Heather calmly casts a line into the rushing river, we no longer see Jody Banks. We see a woman who has lived long enough to know what's worth holding on to and what's worth letting go. And when someone like that chooses to disappear from the screen, it's not an ending. It's the most beautiful act of self-possession. So for you, what keeps Heather Thomas vivid in your memory? Is it the poster girl beauty, or the way she dared to walk away from the limelight to live truthfully? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because many more compelling stories are coming your way. And who knows, maybe another familiar face from your childhood memories will return in the next episode.